To multiply exponential expressions and simplify completely. Here's the first example. You have those two expressions multiplied against each other. You've got to start with the first expression. This exponent of negative 2 has to be multiplied by every exponent inside the parentheses, even the one like this one that doesn't have an exponent written. It's 1. Multiply the negative 2 by each exponent in here. When you do that, you have x to the 4th, y to the 12th, over x to the negative 2nd, and y to the negative 4th. That's negative 2 times negative 2. That's why this is positive 4. Negative 2 times negative 6, 12. Negative 2 times 1, negative 2. And negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. Now, on the other expression, you're going to do the same thing with the negative 3. So you should get x to the negative 12th, y to the 6th, and on the bottom, x to the negative 6th, y to the 12th. Again, that was negative 3 times 4 to get negative 12. Negative 3 times negative 2 is 6. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. And negative 3 times negative 4 is 12. Now you have to go back through and simplify the negative exponents and move them where they must go. On the first expression, x to the 4th stays on top. It's positive. You have an x to the negative 2nd on the bottom. It goes to the top. Y to the 12th stays on the top. It's positive. And then also from the bottom you have y to the negative 4th. It will go to the top as well and be y to the 4th. You're left with nothing on the bottom, so you just put a 1. On the next expression, you have to do the same thing. X to the negative 12th on top must go to the bottom, becomes positive. X to the negative 6 from the bottom goes to the top, becomes positive. Your y to the 6th and y to the 12th stay where they're at because they are both positive. Now once you get these lined up, you want to simplify each expression. So notice over here on the left that you have x to the 4th, x to the 2nd. That's x to the 6th. And then you have y to the 12th, y to the 4th. That's y to the 16th. And then on the other expression, you have an x to the 6th over x to the 12th. The largest exponent is on the bottom. 12 minus 6 is 6. So you have x to the 6th on the bottom. Then you have y to the 6th and y to the 12th. The largest exponent is on the bottom. 12 minus 6 is 6. You have nothing left on top, so you put a 1. Now multiply these two expressions together. You multiply the tops and the bottoms. You're going to multiply this by 1, which means it doesn't change. X to the 6th, y to the 16th. And then multiply the bottoms together. X to the 6th, y to the 6th does not change. You're multiplying it by 1. Now simplify, since you still have more than one x and more than one y to get your final answer. You have x to the 6th over x to the 6th. Something over itself is just 1. There's no need to change it, or no need to write anything because it's just 1. But then you have y to the 16th over y to the 6th. The largest exponent is on top. 16 minus 6 is 10. So your final answer out of the whole thing is y to the 10th. So as a review, you simplify each expression separately, all the way down. And then you multiply them together and simplify once again if you can. Example number 2. Simplify each expression separately. So we'll start on the left and multiply through by this exponent of 2 against each of these exponents. And you'll come up with x to the negative 4th, y to the negative 12th, over x squared y to the negative fourth. And then go through and do the same thing with the other one. You want to multiply through by negative 2 against each of these exponents. You should get x to the negative 8th, y to the 10th, x to the negative 4th, and y to the 6th. Now go through and simplify the negative exponents. X to the negative 4th on the top must go to the bottom, become x to the 4th. You have x to the 2nd on the bottom. It does not move. The exponent is positive. You have y to the negative 12th on the top. It must go to the bottom and become y to the 12th. The y to the negative 4th from the bottom goes to the top and becomes y to the 4th. On the next expression, you're going to have x to the negative 8th go to the bottom and x to the negative 4th go to the top. They change to positive. The y to the 10th and y to the 6th stay where they are at because they are positive. Again, this x to the negative 4th went to the bottom, y to the negative 12th went to the bottom, x squared stayed, y to the negative 4th went to the top. These two traded spaces, they were both negative, and these two stayed where they're at because they are positive. Now simplify the expressions where you can. On the bottom you will have x to the 6th from 4 plus 2, and then y to the 4th over y to the 12th. The largest exponent is on the bottom, and then you'll have 12 minus 4, which is 8. On the right hand side, x to the 4th over x to the 8th. The larger exponent is on the bottom. 8 minus 4 is 4. And then y to the 10th and y to the 6th. The largest exponent is on the top. That's where the y stays. 10 minus 6 is 4. Again, these two cancel to y to the 8th on the bottom because the largest exponent is on the bottom. That's where the y goes, and then you subtract. Larger minus small. These two are added together because you're multiplying them. These are subtracted because it's division. One is over top the other. These are side by side. It's addition because you're multiplying. Over here, largest exponent is on the bottom. That's where the x goes. 8 minus 4 is 4. Largest one is on the top. That's why it stays there. 10 minus 6 is 4. Now, once you get to this point, you multiply straight across, left to right. Multiply the tops. 1 times y to the 4th is y to the 4th. And then over here, x to the 6th, y to the 8th, x to the 4th. Will give you x to the 6th, x to the 4th, y to the 8th. Keep the x's together because you have to go back and simplify. On the bottom, x to the 6th, x to the 4th is x to the 10th. And then y to the 4th over y to the 8th. The largest one is on the bottom. That's where it's going to stay. 8 minus 4 is 4. You have nothing left on the top. Therefore, you put a 1. Final answer is 1 over x to the 10th, y to the 4th. Start by distributing the negative 3 exponent through to get x to the 6th, y to the negative 9th, over x to the negative 18th, y to the 3rd. And on the right side, distribute the negative 2 exponent to get x to the 8th, y to the negative 4th, over x squared, y to the negative 6th. Then simplify your negative exponents. You'll have x to the 6th, and then an x to the 18th that comes up with it. The y to the negative 9th goes to the bottom, and the y to the 3rd stays. On the right side, you have x to the 8th and x to the 2nd that stay where they're at, but the y's flip. Y to the 6th over y to the 4th. Simplify where you can. On the left side, x to the 6th, x to the 18th is x to the 24th. And y to the 9th, y to the 3rd is y to the 12th. Over here you have x to the 6th from the 8 over 2, and then y to the 2nd from the 6 over 4. Now multiply those together to get x to the 24th, x to the 6th, y squared over y to the 12th, and simplify your x's on top. X to the 24th, x to the 6th is x to the 30th. And then you have y to the 2nd over y to the 12th. The largest one is on the bottom. 12 minus 2 is 10. So x to the 30th over y to the 10th. On these types of problems where you have coefficients out on the x, you treat them the same as variables when you're multiplying through with the negative exponents. So if you start on the left-hand side and distribute this negative 2 through to every exponent in there, the exponent on the 3 is 1. So it would be 3 to the negative 2nd, x to the 4th, y to the negative 2nd, over 4 to the negative 2nd, x to the negative 2nd, y to the 6th. Then on the right-hand side, you'll have 2 to the negative 3rd, x to the 3rd, y to the negative 6th, over 3 to the negative 3rd, x to the 6th, and then y to the negative 3rd. You have to go back through and simplify the negative exponents. When you do that, 3 to the negative 2nd goes to the bottom, and you can simplify that. That becomes 9 on the bottom. And then 4 to the negative 2nd goes to the top, becomes positive 16. X to the 4th stays where it's at, but the x to the 2nd from the bottom goes up. Y to the 6th stays where it's at on the bottom, and this y to the negative 2nd goes with it, becomes positive. On the right-hand side, you have 2 to the negative 3rd. That goes to the bottom as 8. And then 3 to the negative 3rd goes to the top as 27. Your x's stay where they're at. They're both positive in the exponents, but the y's have negative exponents. So you trade spots, make the exponents positive. Now from there, simplify where you can. So we'll go here. And notice that you have x to the 4th, x to the 6th on the top, or x to the 2nd, and that makes it x to the 6th. And on the bottom, 6 and 2 become 8. And then over here, you'll have x to the 3rd over x to the 6th. That's x to the 3 on the bottom. And y to the 3rd over y to the 6th is y to the 3 on the bottom. Notice I haven't touched the numbers yet, because if you're multiplying these together, you can cancel diagonally when the occasion arises. So 8 into itself once, and into 16 twice. So you can put that 2 there. 9 into itself once, and into 27 3 times. So you can put the 3 up there. And then multiply straight across, left to right. This times this is 6, x to the 6th, and on the bottom you have y to the 8th and y to the 3rd. You can make that y to the 11th, and the x to the 3rd stays. But you still have x's, one over top each other there. 6 over 3, that would give me a 3 on the top, and then you're left with just y to the 11th on the bottom.